If purpose is not known, abuse is inevitable.
Welcome back again to another edition, another episode of Far From Finish. Again, as always, we are grateful and thankful for all your support and all your love and all your encouragement. I thank you for the comments, and I just encourage you to like and share to others, like and share to anyone who may benefit and who could be impacted by what we are doing today. So just as I am behind the camera, I'm really trusting in you to share to others that they would also benefit from it. Yeah. So today we want to look at the whole concept of trauma, and it's a topic and a trending topic these days across the social media platforms, where people discuss the different types of traumas they have experienced and how it has affected them in even their walk today. And I want to just touch a bit on it, and how we can be better persons, not just understanding trauma, but understand that everything, there is a purpose for it. So we all, in some form or fashion, has experienced trauma. And this is a story, a short story of how trauma can affect someone, especially when there is no resolve. So I've heard this story from my parents and from my family members, where I was in ICU for about, I think, close to 3 weeks to a month. And what I was dealing with at that point in time, the doctors would have recommended to my parents that when they come to visit, not to let me see them, because again, when a child sees his parents, he would want to go with them, and they didn't want to upset or stress me out at that point in time. So there was one visit where my father came, and I think caught up in watching me, he forgot. And they said that when I noticed him, I began to cry, I began to bawl, I began to call for him. And he had to move. They had to pull him away. And I remember when they're giving this story, what stood out is that even as a child there, I thought I was abandoned by my father. And you won't believe how traumatic that was, because I assimilated by him moving away, he did not want me. And therefore that created a wedge in our relationship growing up. So I did not have that bond with my father as I would have loved to, not knowing that he was experiencing a trauma where he wants to have his son but cannot see his son. And then what I assimilated as a little child is that I was abandoned. And these things literally happen to people on a daily basis. Persons are experiencing different types of trauma, and they go away in their minds with what they think it is, but it never resolved. And the sad part about it is that only when we reach the age, or we consider the age where we could talk about it, then we discover that what was actually going on at that time is not what we actually think. And the thing about dealing with trauma is this: one must recognize they have had a traumatic experience. You must be truthful with yourself. You did experience some sort of trauma. But what you must not do with that trauma is use it as a crutch in order to get sympathy, or in order for persons to feel empathy towards you. Trauma does affect us, but overcoming it is even more significant. It is identifying what has hurt you and being able to talk it out and find resolve. Now, don't get me wrong, there are some people who, when you look to address that aspect of trauma, they don't want to discuss it. And those are things that happen to people too, because in trying to address it, the person who you're addressing may be the person who was the cause of that trauma. And if you notice that anytime you want to address things that has affected you, the persons who have been the culprits or responsible for it always make you feel as though you are problematic because you want to address it. Because in addressing it, I have to address them. Here's the reality. Address what is affecting you, because failure to address it now is going to affect you in years to come. I say stand and I say no. Making no sense, Kevin. But anyhow, I have seen when I did not address those traumas, how it has affected my adult life. And affecting my adult life really put me in a place where I began to question a lot about who I was. Yeah? I have experienced where persons have disrespected me. I've experienced where persons make fun of what I do. And all of those things would have come through the fact that I did not address those traumatic experiences in my life. I looked at it as though, based on how persons would have projected it, as though it's nothing. It is important that you not only seek out early what has affected you, but address it in order to be a better person for tomorrow. But I would say this, there is one thing that I've learned in this whole journey. God doesn't make mistakes. And even though you have faced trauma and have experienced it, God is still faithful to carry you through life and keep you and protect you while you are dealing with it. I would say to you, your trauma is not the end of who you are, but it is a stepping stone to tell you who you are. It helps you understand your character. It helps you understand why you like the things you like and why you hate the things you hate. And it's through that trauma I understood why I always wanted to be a police officer when I was small. Because it's that same trauma that could have been bad, God has used it to be something good. And what is it good? That desire to become a police officer and be a difference in our nation. So again, trauma has its purpose. And part of dealing with that trauma is identifying it and resolving it. And it brings us back to that statement. If purpose is not known, abuse is inevitable.
If purpose is not known, abuse is inevitable.